Welcome back, everybody. It's Rodrigo Fonador with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. As a reminder, our episode today and every other episode on the show is brought to you all by American IRA LLC, your local self-directed IRA custodian here in Asheville. If you haven't reached out to them or if you're curious about any IRA questions, I highly encourage you to do so. Also a client, but also a big fan of the work that they do. Today, really excited to talk to you guys about market stats. What happened during quarter one, and we're going to look back, also compare it to what happened for quarter one in 2018 and what happened quarter one 2019 and what that might tell us about what's happening. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Steph to the show, friend of the show, second time back on the podcast. Right. Steph, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So do you mind just giving us a quick recap for people who don't know you, who didn't listen to the past episode, who you are, what you do, and, how's Asheville?
So my name is Stefanie Beierschmitt, and I've been in Asheville for 13 years and been in real estate since 2010 as an agent, but bought my first investment property 2 years before that. And so involved in investing, helping buyers and sellers, and just all things real estate.
Yeah, and if I might say so, you've been on fire recently the last couple of months.
I
know you've been crushing it out there, so congratulations on that. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Talking about that, right? So it's been seems like it's been busy. I don't know. My opinion, first start of the year is kind of slow. It's a little weird, but maybe things are picking up more. What are you seeing from just a feeling standpoint? No numbers, no stats, just a gut feel.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when you asked me to be on here and talk about the stats, I was like, oh, this will be interesting to confirm, or what does that mean? Because I have my feeling, like you're saying, about how busy it's been, or, are things moving? What's going on? And I would say they're confirmed a lot of what I was feeling, but the feel is that things are still very strong in Asheville. It's definitely still a seller's market, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of multiple offers coming in on houses because the inventory is still really low.
So do you mind translating that feeling then into the numbers? Let's look at that. Things are strong, inventory is low. What are the numbers that back that up? What does it mean when we say inventory is low, for instance? Let's start there.
Okay. All right. I have all the stats here, so excuse me while I look to kind of get my numbers straight here.
Yeah. I'm just going to add, so anybody who's listening in or if you're watching this, if you're curious about the numbers, we're going to have these all up on our website with the blog when it comes out. We'll try to create a show notes with it as much as we can, but definitely on our website once this is actually live.
So in looking at the numbers comparing quarter one of 2018 and quarter one of 2019, it's actually not a lot of difference. So I think our year is starting off pretty similar to the way the year before was. Okay. And I primarily looked at 2018, 2019 first quarter, but I also just because I was curious and wanted to see the overall trend, I looked at some stats further back from 10 years back.
Really?
Just kind of curious because I was wanting to have that to compare it to on a bigger scale as well, especially since I've been in real estate about that same amount of time. So it was really interesting to look at. So primarily looked at Buncombe County and Henderson County, and then pulled out Asheville out of that too, because Asheville's sort of a unique,
it's like its
kind
own
of a hot
market,
spot. Exactly. So I wanted to see how that compared. So in terms of number of transactions for quarter one last year and this year, it's about the same. So for example, in Buncombe County, in this, the entire county, including Asheville, was first quarter this year was 678 transactions, actually sales.
The last 3 months, January through March, 600 and how many? 78?
678.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And these are just single family homes.
Right.
I didn't throw in condos or land or anything like that. So just single family homes, 678 transactions in the first quarter in Buncombe County. And then the year before, 2018, we were at 658. So, I mean, it's pretty similar to last year.
Right.
And I would say that's about what my feel was as well, in terms of activity and whatnot. So that confirmed that. And then I actually looked to see what quarter two did last year because I wanted to see if there was an increase. And it definitely jumps up to 949 transactions last year. So we're right at quarter two now, so it'll be interesting to see if that jumps up. I'm assuming it will because a lot of stuff comes on in spring.
Yeah, so see what happens over the next 3 months then.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you go 10 years back on this too?
Not on. I might have, but I didn't write down that stat. But that would have been interesting.
Piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, I know. I did on some of the stats,
right.
but not on that one.
So from an inventory standpoint, right? What does that mean? How much? I guess what are the numbers that we should know when we're looking at Q1?
Right.
I'll let you just take it from here and kind of just tell us what we need to know and what it means and what we need to do to adjust, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the, I think, really important things to look at is the list to sales price because you have your list price, but like, what does it actually sell for? List price is not what it's going to sell for. And so that's something we all need to be aware of, whether you're buying or selling. And it's really strong right now. So it's around, for first quarter, we're around 97.9% of list to sale price.
Wow.
So basically 2% off of what it's listed for is what buyers and sellers should expect. And that means some are going for above and pulling that average up, and some are going for lower, but that's pretty consistent. And that's what 2018 first quarter was doing as well. So it's pretty much been in that range for the last couple years, because I did look back at that.
Okay.
Back in 2010, it was about 95%. And
wow.
So it's like, since basically 2015, we've gone like 97% list to sales price or more. So
is that indicative of people who just know the market and so are pricing things well? Is it like, I'm surprised to, obviously prices in 2010 were different than they are today,
right.
But they were still selling for whatever they were priced at, essentially.
Right.
Is there any thoughts on what that means?
Oh, so are you saying that you feel like 2010 was actually like a fairly good list to sales price?
Well, you said it was 95%, right? It feels pretty good.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I think that does indicate that like the house is only going to sell when it gets to that point where it's actually the list price is close enough that people feel confident enough to make that offer. When it's drastically overpriced, even if you could as a buyer get it for that price, they don't know that because the seller hasn't shown that by getting the price down. Right. So I do think it kind of comes, that's probably why you don't have such a huge difference even when the market was down. Right. Because it is ultimately like it's the list price that piques people's interest. That would be my kind of hypothesis on that. But
fair enough.
Yeah. So and Henderson County was about the same. We think of Henderson maybe as being a little bit slower, but their stats were really strong, pretty similar.
We love Henderson County or Hendersonville mostly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, do you have those stats available?
Yeah, I do. So like on list to sale price for them, it was actually 97.8% as opposed to 97.9 for Buncombe. So pretty much right there. And basically the same trend that I saw looking further back too. So I think Henderson is attracting just as much as Asheville in terms of like popularity in that like strong market where you're really only getting 2% off list price on average. So
don't know if you have this number available. Okay. So putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Do you know what the median sales price was or average or anything, a number to go along with what the list price was?
I do. Okay. Because I think this is super interesting and important. So the average closed sale price, and this is average. There's the different ways to look at those. In Asheville for first quarter was $351,627, but basically $351,000. And then last year first quarter was $341,000. So
the average has gone up slightly,
but not massively. And then and that was for Asheville. Buncombe County, and this is excluding Asheville because I just wanted to see like what that looks like, was not that much different. It was oddly enough, it was 341 for 2019 first quarter, and it was 311 for 2018 first quarter.
So it's actually gone up.
So it's gone up. Yeah, it's gone up for sure, and much more. Like it's been a basically $30,000 increase since last year first quarter comparison. Henderson County's average was at 311 for first quarter this year and 294 for first quarter last year.
Still, both of those are high from I don't know. Then
Yeah, it's still, it's strong. And I was looking back because I was just super curious. I got into real estate in 2010. And so in the past 10 years, the lowest of both of these was in 2011. And in Asheville, the average home price was $255.
That's the lowest in the last 10 years. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And in Henderson, it was, let's see, 202.
Wow.
So it's just interesting.
So it's
definitely
been
an up curve.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we all
think
know
anybody
that.
who's
we all knew that though.
Yeah, absolutely. So what other numbers do you have there that you think we should take into consideration or just be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. Days on market's an important indicator, especially sellers are really curious, like how long is this going to take, and when from buying standpoint, if you're if you're over the average days on market, buyers are starting to get a little nervous and think this thing is stagnant. Why is it still sitting here? So in Asheville first quarter, average days on market 74 days.
Okay.
And that's days on market, just to tell people, explain what that is this would be the average number of days before the house actually goes pending in the MLS system and actually goes under contract.
Right.
So 74 days first quarter for Asheville, 71 days first quarter for Buncombe, excluding Asheville, and then a little longer in Henderson at 82 days.
And is that compared to what for last year?
So last year's first quarter was a little bit lower days on market. So in Asheville, I should say. Asheville was 62 days on market as opposed to 74 now for first quarter of this year. Buncombe County, it's actually gone down. So
really?
It was 82 in 2018 first quarter, and it's 71 now.
Huh.
And then Henderson has gone up slightly. So in 2018, it was 74 days on market, and now we're at 82.
See, that's kind of where I think I've noticed it the most is looking at stuff. Pricing hasn't changed too much, but it's taking a little longer.
Yep, like a week to 10 days longer.
Basically. Yeah, not like a huge,
but
it's like, things that were 30 are now 45 or whatever. But I mean, Buncombe County's gone quicker, though. I would not have anticipated that.
Right. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Buncombe County is the only one that really got a little quicker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. What other numbers have you got there?
Let's see. Price per square foot is always interesting. I like to look at that because that's how a lot of the comps are calculated and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so what I see from looking at that is they're pretty steady between 2018 and 2019 first quarter.
So not a ton of change?
Yeah, not massively. Like first quarter in Buncombe, excluding Asheville, last year first quarter was 181 and it's 183.
Okay.
Now.
Yes, that's the same thing, yeah.
Pretty similar. Asheville city limits 199 last year first quarter. 197 this year. So like you said, the price hasn't really massively changed much, but the days on market a little bit. And Henderson, it's actually gone up a little more. So it was 141 price per square foot first quarter last year, and now it's 153 first quarter this year. So I was thinking about this, and I think maybe some of the shift, like there's some shift down to Hendersonville or Henderson County is kind of what I'm thinking, because that's how their numbers are a little bit different. What do you think? Like, do you think that's part of it because it has been more affordable that people are sort of shifting some energy down there? Or?
I think so. And it also just depends like where people are buying from, right? Like, so if you're not from the Asheville area and you're moving from somewhere, like driving from Hendersonville to Asheville is like no different than driving from a suburb to a city if you work there, right? So if you're used to a 30-minute to an hour-long commute, like why wouldn't you live in Hendersonville?
Right.
It's arguably going to be a prettier drive than anywhere else you've been driving, right?
That's true. Chicago or something.
Yeah.
Texas,
So, and I mean, part of it's like I grew up in big city. I've spent a lot of time in Chicago as well. You drive anywhere, it's a 45-minute to an hour drive, and that's without traffic, right?
Yeah.
So, I think Hendersonville, I mean, we've been more active in Hendersonville more so than we have in like Asheville Buncombe over the last, 6 months or so.
Right.
I don't know, Nolan, do you want to chime in on that? Like, do you think that's accurate?
No, I would totally agree. I would also say that it's almost like more of a local population down there. And I hate to say that because I'm an Asheville local and like I know a bunch of Asheville locals,
Yeah.
But I don't know, like when I talk to people or when we go out on appointments, they're always like, oh, yeah, I just try to stay out of that Asheville mess. Like, it's really like a different culture down there.
Yeah.
Not that it's that far away, but
that's a good point.
It's quite different. And I think the last 6 months, primarily things in Hendersonville.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas like a year and a half ago, it was primarily in Buncombe County. We were just kind of starting to get our feet wet in Henderson.
And we haven't
Right.
done anything different, really. It's just been
Right.
just the way things are falling in our lap, per se, if you would. So,
Right.
So no, I think, Hendersonville's awesome.
Mhm.
I think it's a great market. I don't know. I wouldn't have any opposition to living down there. I mean, again, it's
Yeah.
just, are you comfortable with a 30 to 40-minute drive?
Right. And Hendersonville's developed so much. There's so much going on in that
It's
downtown
incredible,
area
yeah.
anyways.
What's
so,
happened down there in the
yeah.
last 3 to 5 years has been insane.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
That's
there's
true.
lots of like you really don't need to drive. Like there's
No.
plenty of
Right,
jobs down that
exactly.
way. You got Fletcher, you got stuff out in Brevard, and all the
Yep.
breweries
Yeah.
are kind of right there
That's
too.
true.
So
no, yeah, it's a lot of change. So
That's
yeah, no, I think that's what we've seen is definitely a lot more interest, a lot more activity down
Right.
there, and and in a lot of sense, it's nicer down there because it's not as cutthroat.
Right.
Like here, it's crazy sometimes.
It
Like
can be.
people are drawing really aggressive lines in the sand and are just like unwilling to cross them down there. Everybody's like, yeah, let's try to get this done.
Yeah.
So who knows?
That's interesting you say that because I was talking with another agent,
Yeah.
and that's what we were talking about. Like the sellers are just being they're not attached to the deal because they know they'll get another offer. And
Yeah.
so I'm running into that where there's just they're not they don't feel they need to negotiate,
It's like-
and they
Guys, we're a
Yeah.
week away from closing, and this is like an $1,000 issue. Like this is
Right.
not worth killing a deal with,
Right.
but it happens, right? So.
totally.
But yeah, I think it's been easier to work in Hendersonville for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and the numbers make a lot more sense for what we do
Right.
recently down there anyway. So,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, so let's talk about it. So it's definitely still a competitive market, right?
Mhm.
And wanted to segue on that. So like, what
Yeah.
does this mean? So if you're looking to buy, you're looking to sell right now here in the
Mhm.
Asheville area,
Mhm.
Hendersonville area. Either way, they're both strong markets.
Right.
How does that change your approach to things?
Yeah. Well, coming from a seller standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to sell, I think it is important to be realistic with the pricing. I mean, the market is strong, but because of that, if you do overprice it, buyers will watch it, and if it doesn't get sold within that days on market, acceptable days on
Yeah.
market range, it starts to get stagnant, and I think it can really hurt you. So yeah, seeing houses that sit there, which you do see them,
Yep.
that are great houses.
Right.
I've shown many great houses that have sit on the market for like 130 days, and it does kind of make everybody wary. So I think being good with your pricing is important, and knowing that get the house price where it needs to be. You're not going to have to drop 10% off that price. Like I think
Yeah.
a lot of times sellers are concerned about dropping the price and then an offer coming in really low, and I don't think that's happening that much. Obviously the numbers don't show that, and most buyers agents I think are encouraging their clients to still come in strong. I mean, we don't do a lot of super low offers because it's not likely to come together in this market.
We make some low offers sometimes.
Well, you guys are a little different.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the numbers show like if you
Yeah.
list it well, it's going to move quickly and it's going to move very close to list price.
Yeah, exactly.
And just make sure you have a good listing agent
Right.
that you trust.
Yeah, exactly.
As a buyer, what do we do to buy houses that make sense? Whether it's an investment property, even if it's your primary, you want to make sure it's something that you want to buy, that you can buy, and you get it.
Right, exactly. So I think the biggest thing that I advise my buyers is just coming in strong, because there really are a lot of buyers and there's not a lot of houses. So I wrote an offer last week where there were 12 offers on it.
Wow.
That's the most I've ever experienced. I've
That's
experienced
a lot
like
of offers.
6, but this was a lot. And so you've got price obviously, which is a huge factor. You've got other things you can manipulate to make your offer strong, and that would be the biggest ones are time frames, like keeping short time frames on inspections and stuff, due diligence period, and then your due diligence fee, which is the non-refundable money that's going to go straight to the seller, to show that you have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And so
So how do you stand out in 12 offers? Can you give us an idea of what that offer looked like?
I don't want to give
Without,
like the
like,
specifics, but like
Use arbitrary numbers. Like, okay, let's
Yeah.
assume that the property was listed for $100,000.
Okay.
And then
Okay, cool.
use that as the starting point for the offer.
Okay,
then.
so the first thing we did is we came in over list price, and how
how much over?
how much over? That was dependent on what the buyer was qualified for, and she wasn't able to go massively higher.
So it was like 110?
We would say like coming in 110, something
Wow,
like
okay.
that. And then we shortened up, so a buyer that could go higher, I would have recommended that they go higher.
Really?
But if
Okay.
that was as high as they could go, I would say go in at your
Right.
highest. And then I explained to the buyer that, the higher your due diligence fee, the more serious you are. So we can't really go higher on our price, but if you're willing to put up $1,000 to $1,500, that's going to be
As your due diligence fee.
Yes.
Wow. Did they?
they did.
And how much earnest money?
Earnest money, I still say about 1% of list or
Okay.
sale price. I mean, the earnest money is going to be refunded to
Fundable,
you
right.
anyway, so it's not really.
It's
at
not a
least,
huge
yeah,
issue,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna have my buyer in a situation where they're gonna lose that.
Yeah.
So,
How
yeah.
quick of a due diligence period into close did you guys have on that offer?
So that's always a challenge because even if you can get your inspections done quickly, you ideally want to have your appraisal and your loan pretty much approved before you get out your due diligence
Right.
period, which could take longer, especially if it's like a USDA loan or an FHA loan. You really need like on the low end 3 weeks, but really realistically 4 weeks to get your loan really where it needs to be. But that's a long time for
yeah.
a due diligence period, even with $1,500 or $1,000.
Yeah.
That's a long time for somebody to be sitting out there as a
Without
seller,
knowing what's going to happen. Yeah.
and the person could pull the plug for $1,000 or
Mhm.
whatever the amount is. So, we actually broke it into kind of like two clauses
Okay.
where we had a short, like typical due
Good.
diligence inspection period, and then we had sort of a separate loan contingency.
That I love
Yeah,
that though,
which is the
right?
way it
Like I
used to
think like
be,
it's
yeah.
like I don't understand why. I get that there's financing issues, right? But if there's
Right.
going to be an issue with the appraisal or with the home inspection, you can know that within 10
Yeah.
days, right?
Totally.
Like
Totally.
let's get real in 10
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So did you guys get the offer?
No.
So it just must have been like $140,000.
I have no
Do you know what it
I
ended
have
up going
no-
under contract
No, I don't know.
for? Or has it closed yet? I guess
It hasn't
no?
closed
Okay.
yet. So I don't know.
Wow,
It was
that's
just
crazy.
really, yeah, it was really bizarre. I will say this though, like sometimes buyers will feel discouraged when they hear that there's going to be multiple offers.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to still put their best foot forward because I've had it where 4, 5, 6 people are supposed to bring an offer, and then they all get freaked out that everyone else,
Nobody
and
does,
like
yeah.
2 comes in, and it's just you and somebody else, and you can get it, or maybe nobody else
Yeah.
comes in. So you don't get a chance if you don't put something in. So
Yeah. Absolutely. And that
Um,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
So yeah, anything else on the offer front? I had 2 other questions for you. but-
Yeah, no, it's an interesting game. I
Yeah.
think even if there's not multiple offers, coming in strong so that you're avoiding that happening, because the longer you volley back and forth with the seller,
creating an opportunity for
for
somebody,
somebody else
to
to come in, and
yeah.
then you do have to do your highest and best. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually did not take my own advice when I was purchasing an investment home, and it was an amazing deal. And I literally was nitpicking over like $3,000, and
somebody came in.
somebody came in, and I was
Oh,
like,
no.
"Are you kidding?" Like, I knew better. And that was years ago.
Oh,
so
really?
like
Yeah.
now I really like try
true
to
fast,
encourage
yeah.
people, like you'll shoot yourself in the foot if you try to come in too low initially.
Yeah.
Of course you want to get some off, and we can always renegotiate once inspections come back too, and stuff. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, are you personally doing anything, because you invest
Mm-hmm.
differently over the next, say, 6 months, year?
Yeah.
And are you doing anything differently as an agent as well? So
Okay.
part A, part B question.
Yeah. So as an investor, I'm always still looking for deals.
Mhm.
It's for me, it's all the numbers, and so if the numbers work and it's something I feel like I can hold on
Yeah.
to long term, like I'm not a flipper, so
Mhm.
and because the market's been up for so long, and we you just don't I don't
Gotta be
have
more
that
patient,
crystal
yeah.
ball to like figure that out. I mean, we have the numbers here, but
Mhm.
so if it's something I can buy and hold and I feel comfortable with that, then I would definitely still buy.
Nothing's changing on that end.
No, not
Okay.
really. I mean, I'm trying to find other ways to utilize the properties I already have to make
Right.
more money. So Airbnb, finishing out like an unfinished basement, things like
Yeah,
that. So
absolutely.
because if I don't have another property, what can I do with
To
what I got?
maximize, right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what about on the agent side of things?
Yeah, fairly the same. I mean,
Yeah.
continuing to work with people that need help. I work very much one-on-one with people. I don't work with a ton of clients at
Mm-hmm. Right.
once. And so that way I can really provide that like personalized service with them. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, Steph, thanks so much for coming on the
Yeah,
show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been fun as
Yes.
always. So we'll have to get you on here again. I'm
Absolutely.
sure there's going to be something that's going to be good worth talking about as things keep changing.
Absolutely.
And once again, as I mentioned, been crushing it and seeing you crushing on
Thank
Facebook
you.
with all your closings and
I
whatnot.
appreciate
So
that.
congratulations. That's
Yeah.
always fun.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. If somebody has questions about anything, how do they get in contact with you, and any closing remarks?
Okay, they can call me or text me or email me. My website, I got wind, is not working for some reason, so I don't want to send people there. So my email is stephlovesrealestate at gmail.com, and Steph is STEF. And then my number is 828-450-6141. You can also find me on Facebook. I do a lot of connections through Facebook, social media and stuff. And closing remarks. I think real estate is an amazing way to make a future for yourself, even if you are just going to live in your home as a primary residence. You're not looking to do investing. Like, I highly encourage people to at least talk with an agent. I've just spoke with some of my own tenants 2 days ago, and they had a lot of questions. I demystified the process for them, and it's really fun and exciting. So if it's something you're considering and you're not sure what you can afford or whatever, like, just speak to an agent or speak to a lender, because you may be pleasantly surprised. And it's such a neat way to build memories and also build wealth. So love it. I fully encourage it.
Absolutely. I would recommend as well.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence, get your questions answered. Don't make a decision just based on what you think or may not think.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Yeah. Well, Steph, thank you once again for jumping on the show. Yep. And everybody else, thanks you guys for tuning in. This is a big plea for you guys to jump onto iTunes and leave us a review. Give us however many stars you think the show's worth. You guys are tuning in, so I'm sure it's worth at least a couple of 5-star reviews. Just drop us a line, give us a comment, let us know how we're doing. And a quick reminder, May 4th, I believe, is our 1-year anniversary for our meetup group. So hope to see everybody out there. We're going to do something special. So show up, be surprised, come, network, and talk to other people who are interested in real estate. And see you guys in May. And hopefully by this time next week, you've left us a review. Take care, guys. See you next Tuesday.